We're here live at St George's Park. It's me, Pete Colley, and Nick Collins. Nick, we're getting excited now because it's not long, is it, for the big kickoff?
No, that's right. And listen, although Germany was a really good experiment, if you like, and a good opportunity for England's younger players, this is the one that counts. This is the one with qualifying points at stake. Yeah, it's at home. It's at Wembley. England unbeaten in qualifiers for 7.5 years. Fabulous record, that is. But just remember, when it gets to tournaments, they've won 3 in 11 tournament games. So that's where England's focus will be long term. Short term, yeah, this game at Wembley against Lithuania, the chance to really seize control of Group F. They're clear at the top at the moment from Slovenia, but another victory. And you have to say, England at the halfway stage of qualifying would be in a really good position.
This will really put some distance, though, when it'll win 3 points will put distance between anybody looking to beat England to the top.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, they're 2 points clear of Slovenia at the moment and 4 points clear of Slovakia. Slovenia are away to Scotland. That could be a tricky one for them. And, all right, Slovakia have got Malta. You'd expect them to get 3 points there. But, yeah, if England can make it another victory against Lithuania, you'd fancy that Slovenia and Slovakia aren't going to be able to catch them. And remember, England have already played away to both those teams in qualifying already. They won in Slovakia, they drew in Slovenia. So from that point of view, their trickiest game left would be Scotland in June in Glasgow. But I think it's very much a case of one at a time, and Lithuania are the next opponents, and England will be firm favourites to beat them.
The Scotland game's an awkward one for all the reasons we expect. Obviously, it's almost like a derby, isn't it? But what do we read into the Germany game, into the 1-0 defeat? Because England seem to have the upper hand and then lose a game.
Well, yeah, they did. I mean, in the first half, they played really well. They kept their shape. That three-man defence worked really well. Well, the whole system, the 3-4-3. We've seen Chelsea do it so effectively all season, and Gareth Southgate seemed to take a leaf out of their book with the way that he lined England up. I really liked it, I have to say. You've got to have the right players to play it. And, OK, you can argue maybe it's a bit of a gamble putting someone like Michael Keane in for his first game and slotting him into a three-man defence when normally he's used to playing 4 at the back with Burnley. But he coped really well. Gary Cahill's experience of that, I mean, he was the man that was really, not just because he was captain, but he was the man cajoling and making sure that they kept their shape. Chris Smalling's first game for England since the Euros, he did well. I think the whole thing was a success from that point of view. In midfield, Jake Livermore and Eric Dyer were very solid. I thought Dyer looked good again. I think he's coming back into a decent patch of form after perhaps, by his own admission, not being in the best form of his career. Up front, well, you have to say Dele Alli and Adam Lallana provided a real and genuine threat, and they both should have scored, and that really is the story of the game in a sense, because if Lallana scored on the half hour with that shot that hits the post, and he's unlucky, let's not kid ourselves. Ali had a great chance, Dele Alli, didn't he? And he just shot straight at the keeper. Either of those goes in, or even both, England are on their way, and they wouldn't have lost. As it is in the second half, well, Germany, in a sense, copied England. They started the high press, and Lucas Podolski, well, I mean, his farewell game, his testimonial, as some would say, and what a way to bow out with that fantastic shot. Yes, you could maybe say Joe Hart could have got a bit closer to it, but I wouldn't blame him necessarily for that. I think it was meant to be. I think that's all you can say about it. But England would take a fair degree of comfort from that 1-0 defeat. They would have liked to have got a draw, rather, or even a win. But the point is that they have showed that they can play a different system. And look, we had one disastrous go at a three-man defence in Zagreb under Steve McLaren when they got beaten in Croatia. Other than that, you have to go back to the Glenn Hoddle era when England were playing 3 at the back on a regular basis. I think we'll see that again, although not necessarily against Lithuania.
The three-man defence, obviously, it stood up quite well. Ultimately, it didn't win the game for England, but there are problems in defence going into this game against Lithuania. Do you read it, A, it's only Lithuania, or B, no, it needs to be, we need to get it right now against whoever?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that second suggestion. I mean, it's perhaps lucky that it is Lithuania at home and not, for the sake of argument, Slovenia or Slovakia or Scotland away in this group. It is unfortunate. It's one of the things that happens so often at international level. It's one position that suddenly becomes the problem area. Listen, Chris Smalling accidentally breaking Phil Jones' toe in training in the build-up didn't help matters. Gary Cahill is suspended after picking up bookings in the qualifiers. And of course then Chris Smalling himself picking up an injury and having to go home. Ben Gibson of Middlesbrough has been drafted in. So they've got basically just 3 central defenders left in the squad. John Stones, who of course didn't play in Dortmund, he'll come in. And partner, I would think, Michael Keane in an orthodox back four. I think it would be asking a lot of Ben Gibson, who obviously Gareth Southgate knows from under 21 days and has been doing really well for Middlesbrough in the Premier League, but it's asking a lot for him off the back of one training session on Saturday morning to then be expected to make his England debut in a 3-man defence. So I'm thinking on that basis he might shelve it for this game, but expect to see it again, very possibly in Glasgow against Scotland in June.
I love the way now we're saying, you know, Michael Keane will slot in, and all of a sudden, the Burnley man, you know, it's become a name, hasn't he? He's become, you know, he's almost for this game become an automatic, you know, for the starting 11.
Well, yeah, that's right. But again, he's another one of these players that Gareth Southgate has watched developing through the under-21s. We shouldn't forget he's got an impeccable pedigree. Manchester United youngster, okay, getting his regular first-team football at Burnley in the Premier League. That's what England managers want to see from their young players. They'd far rather they're lower down the league and not playing for the Big Six, but playing week in, week out in the Premier League, than getting only the odd game coming off the bench for one of the Big Six. So, yeah, it's worked for Michael Keane. His career seems to be on and up, and I think you might find he could move on and get himself a big club at some stage in the near future anyway, if he continues to develop. And it's, you know, it's the same with Ben Gibson. He's another player. Listen, if he does play, then great. It's not sort of a matter of chance and people worrying now. I think Joe Hart described it in his news conferences. There is a conveyor belt there now. And the fact that Gareth Southgate is now the permanent manager, having been the under-21s manager, he's in the perfect position to make sure that he can exploit that to the full. And I think that's the reason we're talking the way we are, that, OK, there's a few people that aren't going to be around. And we know already, obviously, the likes of Wayne Rooney, he's injured, Daniel Sturridge is injured, Harry Kane is injured, Danny Welbeck's still on his way back, really, from injury. Big players, none of them are here, but it's not like everybody's thinking, oh, you know, we're going to struggle now because we haven't got those players. We didn't have them against Germany, but even without them, England still looked pretty decent, especially for the first hour. OK, they faded a little towards the end, but then with 6 substitutions being made, games do often lose their shape and focus a little. This time around, England will be ready. They've played and beaten Lithuania twice in the last qualifying campaign, so there won't be any element of not knowing what the opposition is like.
The man of the moment, the key man, Dele Alli, and to avoid confusion, I think people misunderstood the news yesterday that he was going to get a 3-match ban. Explain exactly what that means, Nick, because it doesn't affect England, does it?
Oh, no, it's a 3-match European ban. And it will affect Tottenham, obviously, next season. But in terms of England, no. I mean, Dele Alli is a terrific player. He's arguably our most exciting talent. And well though he plays, he knows, and we've spoken to him about this before, he knows that there's one element of the game that he's got to be a little careful of. He's got to keep his emotions and temper in check from time to time. Not all the time, but just every now and again. And when that happens, if the red mist descends, it's something that he's got to learn to overcome. But yeah, the suspension doesn't affect England, but for Tottenham it means even if they do make the Champions League next season, he'll be missing for the first 3 group games.
It's that England midfielder dynamic though, isn't it? I mean, Paul Scholes, what a fantastic player. Could he tackle? Steve McMahon, what a fantastic player. Oh, he could tackle. Yeah, we've had that going on, haven't we, for years? And Dele Alli's got that little thing. He's tempered with a little bit of fury, isn't he?
Well, yes, he is. But do you know what? That's what gives him that extra little dimension, the X factor, if you like. I mean, I remember us all talking about Wayne Rooney in his younger days, saying, oh, he's got to be a bit careful. But we saw Wayne actually did get a grip of all of that and make sure that the red cards didn't keep on coming. He's young enough, talented enough to make sure that he can get to on top of that part of his game, which is, all right, a little bit of a weakness, I suppose you could argue. But you know what? I love players with a bit of fire in their belly. I think that's what gives them something extra. And Dele Alli has the potential to not only be sort of England's standout player going into the World Cup in Russia, but he could be one of the players of the World Cup. I think he has the potential to be that good. I mean, burst onto the scene in the Premier League last year, fabulous season, and he's kept it going. No second season syndrome for him, and I think he can only get better. And okay, if he picks up a few yellows along the way, so be it. I mean, he's playing in that area of the field where there's going to be all sorts of things happening, so it's not surprising in a sense. But no, I mean, Dele Alli, all power to his elbow. I hope he continues improving, and I think Ali and Lallana are England's two most exciting players, and they hold the key for Gareth Southgate in this qualifying group.
Let's have a look at the bet-safe odds going into this World Cup qualifier. England 1-10 to win. The draw 15-2. Lithuania 27-1. It's not quite Leicester, is it? It's not 5,000, but 27-1.
Yeah, 27-1, and I don't even think that's good value, to be honest. There's no way that England should slip up in this game. That's not to say that they won't be given a bit of a test. Lithuania are probably improved when they were in England's last qualifying group. If you remember there, the game at Wembley was 4-0. It was fairly regulation. Wayne Rooney, Danny Welbeck, then Raheem Sterling, who he thinks is going to come back in for this one. He got the third with his first ever England goal, incidentally, that night. And then, of course, the story was Harry Kane coming off the bench to replace Wayne Rooney, and within seconds scoring a header to announce himself at international level. That was his 30th goal of the season. He was having a great time, as he is this year. He misses out this time because of injury. The point being that Lithuania did not provide much of a threat, and they weren't really that much better in Vilnius either for the final game when England made it 10 wins out of 10 in qualifying. And that was with a scratch side, if you like, in a sense, in that Joe Hart, who's going to be captain this time, James Milner, Wayne Rooney, Gary Cahill, Jordan Henderson, they were all rested. And instead it was a slightly new-look England team. The likes of Ross Barkley, he scored a good goal that night. So did Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Harry Kane wanted to claim a goal, but the ball hit the post from his shot, came back, hit the keeper's head. So I think it's got to be an OG. Sorry about that, Harry. But otherwise, yeah, 4-0 and 3-0. And although Lithuania, listen, they have improved. They got 5 points in the qualifying group so far. But for a last-minute equaliser in Glasgow, Scotland would have lost at home to them. So England won't take them too lightly. But like I say, the odds reflect the fact they are very much long shots in terms of winning. I mean, if they packed the defence and got away with one, and England had a bad day, then maybe the draw. But really, the 10-1, the 10-1 on bet is the only option.
Well, before we have a look at the Bet-Safe boost, let's just have a little look around us, because it's fantastic settings here. We're at St George's Park. Here's the lovely decorative fountain that was set up by, I remember Mr Sheepshanks all those years ago. And right at the end of the building there is where Gareth Southgate has his press conferences, and the manager the captain will have their press conferences in there. It's a great setting, and I know that the players love it. Roy Hodgson wasn't so keen on this place, but Gareth is, isn't he? And it's a good centre to build on this England side. Yeah,
listen, Pete, Gareth Southgate very much bought into the concept of St George's Park, and that obviously helped him in terms of his chances of becoming the full-time manager. But he saw the potential of it through his under-21 management days as well, and he does appreciate the fact that this is the future. This has to be the way it goes. All the England teams are based here. I mean, we've been in the hotel seeing the under-19 team wandering around. Okay, you know, England won't always be here, but there'll always be some players here. It's very much a sporting centre, and a centre for coaches to come, to learn, to get better. And ultimately, if the coaches get better, that's the theory that the England football teams through all the age groups will get better as well. And that's what everybody wants at the end of the day.
Right, let's talk about the serious business, the front three, if indeed it will be a front three. Is that what you're expecting?
Well, I think that there's every chance that Raheem Sterling's going to come back, and I think that the temptation will be to keep Lallana, Ali, Sterling as the three behind Jamie Vardy, although Vardy is carrying a slight knock, although our understanding is that he should be okay. But if not, there's Marcus Rashford or even Jermaine Defoe to come in. It wouldn't surprise me if he almost went 4-2-3-1, or even perhaps, how about this one, 4-1-4-1 with Eric Dyer as a holding midfielder to protect the back four. But really, will they need that much protecting against Lithuania? But obviously, so you have Eric Dyer with the defensive duties, but you could perhaps then play a 4, which is Lingard on one side and Sterling on the other to provide the pace down the flanks, and then Dele Alli and obviously Lallana supporting Jamie Vardy. Now that's a really attacking lineup, but it wouldn't surprise me if Gareth Southgate didn't go down that route. Jesse Lingard, since he came in against Malta, has been involved in 4 of the 5 England games since and started a couple of them. Came on for the last 20 minutes in Dortmund. Highly regarded by Gareth Southgate, and I think he's got this feeling that perhaps that might be the way through Lithuania. If you can't get through the middle because they're going to pack their defence, then let's go around the outside. So you could understand why he might have, if you like, 2 rows of players getting ready to give England width by having Lingard and Sterling attacking on the flanks, but also with Walker and Bertrand behind. And we shouldn't forget, Walker is fast becoming one of the best right backs in the world, and as an attacking force, I mean, he really is something. And if he's supporting, say, someone like Lingard, then that's great. I mean, equally, Gareth might feel, well, okay, we don't need 4, we could have 3 because Walker's such a good attacking weapon. Point being, there's lots of options. We think pretty much we know what the team is. We obviously expect John Stones to come back in.
Yep.
Raheem Sterling has been one of England's stars in this qualifying campaign. And if it's Jesse Lingard as well, then that wouldn't surprise me either. Obviously, we know Cahill is suspended and Chris Smalling's injured. Perhaps Jake Levermore will sit this one out. Possibly the 3 changes are there, but the formation is still up for grabs. And that's good from England's point of view, because it shouldn't just be 4-4-2 or even the 4-2-3-1 that they played, or even the 4-3-3. They've got to be able to adapt to all the different formations and all the different problems and challenges that international teams will put before them. So, yeah, I would expect a very attacking formation from Gareth Southgate to keep this wonderful qualifying record going and pick up another 3 points from what will be a pretty much full house at Wembley on an emotional occasion because of what happened, obviously, on Westminster Bridge earlier this week. So it's set for it to be a really big occasion. England's first home game of the year, and the chance for them to consolidate their position at the top of the group.
Let's have a look at the BetSafe boosts for that. Jamie Vardy and Jermaine Defoe to score. Well, Jermaine Defoe's got to get on the pitch, but that's 11-5. England to win and both teams to score 13-5.
Don't fancy that one, I've got to say.
No, I know you don't. But
Lithuania, if you do score, then good on you, but I don't expect it.
Well, Lithuania to score first, 11-2.
No, I mean, listen, things can go wrong, and all the players will say there's no such thing as an easy game in international football. And Lithuania, as I say, they are improving. But England do seem to have the measure of them from what we've seen of the previous 2 encounters, and indeed from what we've seen of England this season. The only goals they've conceded have been in the friendlies. They haven't given away a goal in qualifying yet. And with home advantage, they really would be disappointed if it's anything other than a victory and a clean sheet, especially as Joe Hart's going to be the England captain. It's his 70th cap. He certainly won't want to be giving away a goal. He wants to lead England to a victory. If it's 1-0, he'll take that now, believe you me. They just want the points and continue their run at the top of the group. If it's 2, 3 or 4, so be it. But you can't guarantee it necessarily will be, but there would be disappointment within the defence if they do concede a goal. There always is. They just as the strikers set out to want to score, the defenders set out to try and keep a clean sheet, and they should do. So, yeah, those bets are interesting, and occasionally they're going to come off for someone, but I'm not sure that Lithuania to score is necessarily the best bet, but we'll see. I mean, people disagree and go, no, they can do it.
Fantastic insight from Nick Collins, as always. The governor's back. He's back on BetSafe. You can check out all the latest odds on betsafe.com. And remember, you've got to be in it to win it.